Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
When I was young, I remember a couple in our neighborhood who were absolutely brilliant. If you asked anyone who knew them who the smartest people they knew were, all fingers would be pointed to these people. Yet, on a Sunday morning, their cars never left the driveway. I remember my mom explaining to me that they didn't believe in God. That totally blew my mind as a youngster. How could someone not believe in the God who created them? Who sent rain and snow, who made the sun rise every morning? Evidence was all around them. I didn't understand how that was possible. Yet they didn't. The Jewish leaders had the same problem. They believed in God, but they didn't believe Jesus was God. After all the miracles He did openly, right out in public, even after He reached out to them just as the Old Testament God had reached out to their ancestors, warning them, challenging them, loving them. Yet they not only didn't believe, but they hated Him so much that they killed Him. Even after the soldiers came back and told them what they'd witnessed on Resurrection Sunday, they chose not to believe. A few years later, these were some of the same men who plotted to kill Paul. In Acts 23, beginning in verse 12, we read that more than 40 of these Jews got together and made an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. Knowing that the Lord had met with Paul the night before and promised He'd bring him safely to Rome, we have to feel sorry for these guys, at least a little bit. If they had kept their oath, they would have died of dehydration. They couldn't kill Paul. He was under God's protection. Their conspiracy involved getting the Romans to bring Paul back to the Sanhedrin for questioning, and then attack and kill him. What desperately insane men! Attacking a Roman cohort, even if they did kill Paul, would carry a death sentence. They were actually prepared to risk their own life to attack a man who had not even harmed them. Do you see how much of a threat Paul was to Satan? They thought they were so smart. But God thwarted their plan by positioning Paul's nephew to overhear this plot. Now, I'd love to hear his story. Why was he there within earshot of the Sanhedrin? Was he following in his uncle's footsteps to become a Pharisee? Did Paul's family disassociate with him because he became a Christian, or were they Christians too? At any rate, he told Paul and the tribune what he had overheard. He obviously wanted to save Paul's life. You know, we have life-saving news for people in our circle of family and friends. As Paul's nephew didn't hesitate to share the news that he'd heard to save Paul's life, we need to tell people of the life-saving news of what Jesus has done for us all. Lysias, the Roman commander, acted on the information he'd been given by Paul's nephew and transferred Paul out of Jerusalem to Caesarea in the middle of the night with a letter to the governor Felix, explaining about Paul. God protected Paul from his enemies, but He used all of this to move Paul on his first leg of his journey to Rome. How has God protected you? How has He used trials in your life to get things done? God always has a plan. It's easy for us to see that in Paul's life, since hindsight is 20/20, but it's harder for us to see it, or at least remember to look for it in our own lives when it's happening. But just remember, nothing takes God by surprise, and nothing is wasted. It all fits nicely into His plan, and He can turn a trial in your life into a testimony of His greatness.
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thank you for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.